This is Rebecca Jernigan, your tour guide into discoveries, coming to you live from the heart of America to around the globe via the World Wide Web, satellite, and podcast. Let's journey together into the realms of the known to the unknown in search of enlightenment, knowledge, and truth. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet Earth. This is your host, Rebecca Jernigan, and you are listening to Journeys with Rebecca right here on wolfspiritradio.com and also being heard on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, Studio B. Please remember that both stations are listener supported, so anything that you can do to assist in keeping all the shows for free and all the great information coming, that would be wonderful. So if you can make a donation, please remember that it does help the hosts and the guests and all of that, and it helps to keep us out of the mainstream. Please don't forget to go to my website, that's journeyswithrebecca.com, and check out the archives, upcoming guests and topics, classes, workshops that I offer, as well as setting up an appointment for your session. And there is always a free newsletter to sign up for. Let's see, back to the website. I do have a class scheduled for the end of this month, and this is the Atlantis Crystal Cave, an exciting class coming up. So if you can, please do make sure that you get signed up, because it is very limited for the audience as far as that is concerned. We have a fantastic guest tonight. Her name is Lisa Barnett. She is an author, an Akashic expert, a teacher consultant, and an Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom founder. Tonight's topic is going to be from her book, From Questioning to Knowing, 73 Prayers to Transform Your Life. Really fascinating show. Now, the Akashic Masters offers prayers for self-trust, heart opening, fear, strength, courage, forgiveness, shame or guilt, judgment, self-love, abundance, financial growth, grief and loss, release of unconscious beliefs, vibration elevation, creativity, happiness, life balance, grace, peace, and more. There are also prayers for healing from abuse, dysfunctional family relationships, physical pain and illness, as well as one specifically designed for cancer. Along the way, Lisa will address how to release old karmic patterns and complete soul contracts with these messages of light. The influence of the astral lineage may have on you, the way to unblock your chakras using prayers, and how these prayers are best used to resolve issues, clear blocks, heal emotional pain and resentments, and open space for miraculous things to arrive. If you have a question, and we hope that you will ask your questions tonight, please make sure that all of your questions are in all capitals, so that we know that it is a question, so that we can make sure that we get it answered in a timely manner for you, so too much time does not go by. So please, let's welcome right now Lisa Barnett to the show. Hello, Lisa.
Hello. Thank you for having me on, Rebecca. I'm excited to be here with you.
Well, let me say this. What people did not know is that the call got dropped, and in the middle of trying to do my opening, I'm trying to type the information to my producer and trying to talk at the same time, and so I'm so glad we got you back on.
Absolutely. I know. I'm like, okay. Oh, and then I'm like, hello, and I realize you're talking. Like, oh, she's on already. Okay. Well, here we all are. There we
Everybody take a deep breath. Oh, there we go. And we're just going to clear our space. This is great. Well, listen, it really is a lovely thing to have you on tonight. Let's talk about your credentials are quite amazing. So let's talk about, first of all, you being a founder for your wisdom school of the Akashic records. Let's talk a little bit about how you came into this knowledge of the Akashic records. And let's give some of the background information. I've read your book, and it's really, it has prayers in there that I haven't even used yet. I'm like, oh, I need to do that. Oh, I could do that. I got like, okay, I can't do it all at once. So let me just do, a few at a time or one at a time. So let's give a little bit of background information, Lisa, because it's a fascinating topic. There are so many people that are very, very interested in their own Akashic records, what they are. It can be talked about a little elusively for many people. It's not always really clear. So maybe you could kind of go into that kind of an explanation, and that would be lovely.
Sure, I would love to, because, there's all sorts of interesting things to say about the Akashic records. So I'm sure we won't be at a loss for things to talk about. But I'll start with the basic definition of what the Akashic records are, because, over the years, and I've been doing this a long time, people have said to me, I hear those words, but I don't know what that means, or I don't know what those are, or isn't that past lives kind of, what is that? So I would say that still most of the world really kind of has no idea what the Akashic records are. So I always find that useful to start with that definition. So here's my definition. So the Akashic records are the records of your soul from the time your soul first individuates from source until it eventually returns home. So if you imagine it in a way that, imagine that when you were born, somebody strapped a GoPro to your head, and everything you did in your life was videotaped and audio, and every person you saw was, on this GoPro, on this video. Everything you would have, that would be just one life. Imagine, right? I can't even guess how many hours that would be. But everything you have ever been and done as a soul who has hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes here on earth alone, not to mention hundreds and thousands of lifetimes in other places, other planets, other dimensions. Everything you have ever been and done is recorded. And so this is all recorded in source energy, basically as part of the information arm of source. And so it's stored there forever. We don't have to do anything with it, but it's available to us because there's so much information in there. And one of the things, so there's a couple of very cool things about it. So if you imagine your Akashic record like a big library, each person has their very own library. Again, we're back to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books in your library. And then you actually have your very own librarians, which is very, very cool. So you've got these beings of light that keep your records and help you find the information that you need, that you're looking for. So imagine you decide you want to write a book, and but you don't know how. You could actually go into your Akashic records and say, have I ever been an author? Can I reclaim some information about writing a book or being a published author? What can I know, remember, reclaim from these lives? And so there's information that is there that is yours. It's your soul. You can reclaim it actually pretty easily. So, there's tons of uses for your Akashic records. Some of them have to do with past lives, reclaiming wisdom, but a lot of it also has to do with healing soul patterns and learning about the soul plan you made when you came to Earth. So I know over the next 2 hours we'll talk a lot about the uses and the benefits and what we can do and why would we, want to bother to learn more about the Akashic records and how to use it. So that's kind of the image, the idea. your soul's library and your own personal librarians, storing all the information of you as an expansive, ancient, wise soul.
You know, that's an excellent definition and explanation of what the Akashic records are. I just want to share with you a little story because it's really kind of fun. I always think of this when I think about my Akashic records. The first time I came in contact with my own Akashic records was just kind of happen chance. I was having an experience, vision, whatever you want to call it. I was in meditation. It was a vision. And I went into this room, and there was this file cabinet there, right? Very out of place for where I was at, right? You know, I'm like, what's a file cabinet doing in this particular place? But when I opened it up, it was filled with this golden light. And this golden light had within this had all these different file folders. And of course, you know, these are metaphoric so that you know, so that the individual can understand what it is. And I was like, oh my gosh, I started thumbing through it, and I realized that this file was all about me. Not just me as the me as I know, but the me for whoever I've been. It was my Akashic records. So that's how they showed up for me, was literally in a file cabinet, with this beautiful golden light coming out of it. Very well protected, I might add, you know, so you don't have to worry about somebody opening up your file drawer on you.
Right. And isn't that a beautiful image? And it's really true. You know, people, you know, often will ask things like, you know, I use the library symbolism just because it's, you know, it's easy enough for us to wrap our brains around. And I like the explanation of having your own personal librarians, because we do have record keepers. There are energetic beings of light who are here to help you and keep your records and support you. So literally these, you know, wonderful, guides, beings of light, are just kind of waiting to be of service to you. So I always think, what a waste if we never talk to them and ask for, you know, some of this information, opinions, ideas, right? That's what they're here waiting to do, is to help us out. So big libraries, big record keepers or librarians, or file cabinets, whatever, you know, however we get that.
Yeah, it was kind of a strange thing. It really
That's
was.
good,
And then after that, I seen that movie with Jim Carrey what was his name? I just was talking about him.
Oh, yeah.
The other actor.
Morgan Freeman,
yes. And he changed places with him, and he went to look at the Akashic records, and it was a file cabinet. Well, my vision came before that movie came out, so I thought it was kind of funny. I just had to laugh and laugh and laugh. I was like, well, I'm not the only one that has that visual.
Right. I love it. And remember that file cabinet just went, right?
Yeah, I never did get to the back of mine, no. Oh, I suspect there's a lot in there, right?
Well, right. I mean, that is really symbolic of how ancient we are, which means that not only are we ancient, you know, we're wise, because we have been around and done so much. And that useful information is recorded in our Akashic records. And so it is there for us to access and use. And it can really benefit us in so many different ways, like I, you know, said about writing a book. But it could be anything. It could be about, you know, about parenting, about bringing in a new invention from kind of another world or dimension, because you've lived there and you've come as part of your soul plan to bring some new inventions to the earth that come from another planet. So wouldn't that be helpful to kind of access your Akashic records and say, what were those inventions? What do I know? What planet was I on? Where, you know, give me that information that I came to remember, to share, to, you know,
I think there's a few of them out there, a few of our inventors that may have had access, even if they didn't think that that's what they're, or even understand maybe that's where they were. But I think there's been some information that people have ascertained by reaching their own Akashic records and just not understanding that that's where they were, or that's where the information come from.
Right.
especially
Right.
if you're not
I agree.
consciously aware of it. Yeah. So talk to
No,
me a
I
little bit
totally
about
agree.
your school or your foundation,
Yeah.
whatever that was. That's just fascinating to me.
Well, so I started a school. It's called Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom. And in my school, I teach people to access their own Akashic records. So I teach Akashic Self-Mastery, which are 2 workshops that come together and help us to really go learn to read the records, because that's, of course, step 1. You have to learn to read, right? And then step 2 is really going deep into the expansive records of your soul. So I teach them how to access information and what to do with all this information about past lives, around ancestry, our genetic lineage, our ancestral lineage, our creativity. We even work with things like healing low self-esteem and clearing energy blocks and patterns that come from this lifetime or other lifetimes, just to kind of name some of the pieces that are available, to access in the Akashic Records. So I teach 2 weekend workshops. I teach online. So that's Akashic Self-Mastery. And then what I found was that there were so many of my clients and students who really wanted to start a spiritual business, spiritual career. The Akashic Master said to me, create Akashic Career Mastery. And so it's a 7-month program in which I teach people to read the records for their clients, do energy healing for clients. I teach, many pieces to kind of business, creating a business, really channeling your information into a website, writing copy for a website. Really getting out there in the world is creating a spiritual career and business for yourself. So Akashic Career Mastery and Akashic Self-Mastery, of course, is first. And I'm out here in California, and I teach here on the West Coast. I'm actually going to be in Denver in August teaching Akashic Self-Mastery, which will be really fun. I'm teaching a 4-day workshop in Denver, August 11th through the 14th. If anyone's interested, they can find that on my website. So the Akashic Master said to me about 20 years ago, it's time to bring this energy, this wisdom, this knowledge back to the planet, because it's been hidden as kind of the esoteric mystery school information. It wasn't common in the world. So they said, it's time to bring it back. Will you help? And I said, sure. How do you say no to that, right?
No, you don't. I've had the same thing. You just don't. You go, okay, well, I guess that's what I said I would do. So sure, yeah. Well, you have to remind me though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Give me baby steps. Show me how. What's next? And they do. That's exactly what they do. They help you.
Yes, they do. They do. So you have this beautiful book. You have and by the way, your website is Akashic. Wait a minute. I got it here. AkashicKnowing.com.
Yes.
AkashicKnowing.com. And this book, From Questioning to Knowing, is this your first book that you've written?
No, this is the second book.
Oh, okay. What was your first one?
The first book is called The Infinite Wisdom of the Akashic Record. And it really teaches a lot about the Akashic Records and actually just even how to start to access your own Akashic Records. They're both available on Amazon, so that's, easy to find all over the world.
Well,
yeah.
Well, listen, because I didn't realize that this was your second book, maybe that'd be a kind of a synopsis, if you will, of some of the information there. So as we go into this information of this new book, it kind of marries itself together. What do you think? Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So the first book, The Infinite Wisdom of the Akashic Records, when the Akashic record keepers, the beings of light, asked me to write a book or told me to write a book, is usually a little more like it. I said, okay, how? And they said, take your first course, Akashic, learn to access the Akashic records. Take that course, the audio, have it transcribed, and turn it into a book. So people can start to learn to access their records. It's time to bring this energy, this information back to humanity. So I said, okay. And I really didn't say that, but I was in the middle. I was in the middle of writing another book. So this was kind of the funny thing. I was doing a Get Your Book Done program online with this lady coach, Christine Closer, and she had a contest that was going on. So you could put your book proposal into the contest, and then there was about 25 different prizes. And I didn't care anything about winning the contest. I just wanted the deadline to make me get my book done. I just needed a deadline. Because I had started the book 4 years earlier, and I wasn't getting it done, right? Because there was no reason to finish it. There's no one pushing me. There's no one asking for it. There was nothing that was making me get it done. So I spent actually 15 years in advertising as a production director. And so I'm really good with the deadline. So I said to myself, let's do something that gives me a deadline. So here was this program with this contest as a deadline. So I said, great. Okay. So I'm working on my book proposal, finishing up my first book, writing away. And there were little coaching calls along the way. And on one of the coaching calls, someone said, how many books can you put into the contest? And Christine said, 2. And my Akashic master said, write the other book. And I said, what? I can't get the first book done. What are you, crazy? And I said, oh, okay, let me, backpedal. Okay, let me be nice. Fine. What do you want me to write? How am I supposed to do this? And they literally gave me 2 steps. They said, transcribe your class and call your friend Meg. And I thought, oh, my friend Meg is way too busy to help me, so I'll just be off the hook. I'll call Meg. She'll say no, and I'm done. Okay, I'm good, right? So I call Meg. And she says, that is so funny. I was just thinking I would love to work on a book project. Yeah, I'll help you.
Love it.
Yep. So all the crazy things. So when you start to work in your Akashic records, if you're doing what they want you to do, if you're on your soul path, if you're connected and aligned to your soul plan, things go, I find, very well. So here's the second funny part, really, is that Meg said yes. We get this book proposal done in a month. We have less than a month to do it. We get the book proposal knocked out. You don't have to have a whole book. You only need like the first 2 chapters and an outline, your table of content, some different information to do a book proposal. So it doesn't have to be done. So I put both books in the contest, and I promptly forget about them. 3 months goes by. And people start texting me saying, congratulations. And I'm thinking, what the heck? I literally had just, been on vacation for a week. I'm on a airport bus, busing home from the San Francisco airport, and people are saying, congratulations. And I'm thinking, what did I do, right? What did I do? I didn't do anything. I've been on vacation. And so I text back to one of the people, and she said, you won the contest. Not only did I win a prize, I won first prize, which was an agent who got me a publishing contract, who got my book published.
Wow.
So, right. Wow. So that is I said yes, and they said, we're going to make it happen. So now that book, The Infinite Wisdom of the Akashic Records, is translated into 2 more languages. It's in Spanish and Czech, which I was very surprised when it showed up in Czech at my house. So Yeah,
Wow.
so that was,
Fantastic.
that was great. Yeah, it's a #1 Amazon bestseller, and it does really well around the world. So it's very fun. I've been in London and spiritual bookstores and found my book. There's,
Oh, how
so it's
great.
been, Barnes and Noble around the country. So that's the infinite wisdom of the Akashic Records. It actually has step-by-step to start to access your own Akashic Record. So it's a fabulous starting place for people who want to learn to access their records. And then I suggest, because it's a great starting place, it's kind of that real warm-up, and a lot of people totally get it and really start to open the records. Then I suggest, come take a class. I teach you a lot more stuff in the class, or do it online, right? And then go on to course 2, where you go deep and you really go into the big expanse of all this huge information that are in your Akashic records. So that is the first book. And so when the Akashic Master said to me, write the next book, I said, okay, what are we writing about?
Please tell me it's something I know about.
Well, yeah, it's all a joke to me, because they said, we're going to write a prayer book. And I said, really? Why? And they said, did you forget that you spent 10 years as a prayer practitioner with the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living? And I said, oh, yeah, I did. It kind of slipped my mind, It was a couple of years ago. Anyway, as silly as it sounds, they said, this book will have these very powerful healing prayers that are imbued with Akashic energy, which is pure divine source energy. And it will help people to connect up to the records, but they don't have to learn to do anything. They can just read the prayers and get healing. And they said to me, most of the people in the world pray in some way or another. Some people pray in church, but actually the great majority don't. The great majority just pray. Whether you're setting an intention or asking for help or asking for what you want or asking, for what are my next steps or
That's true.
why is this happening? We're really putting that out to the universe, to source, to God, to the angels, to whoever it is that we might be praying to. And so the Akashic Master said this is just a beautiful way to share this healing energy with people without them having to know what the heck the Akashic Records are. So a more universal book. So in some ways, they're almost flip-flopped. I'd almost say that this one would have made sense to come first, and then the but whatever, they have their plan. I'm not in charge.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the prayers in here. There's obviously a lot of them. I thought the one for the world peace was really, really great. And I also, and you mentioned it here, and it's also in your book about people, prayers for people with self-confidence. And I find that most people, if they lack that self-confidence, they're not even sure that it's self-confidence that they're lacking. And you really wish to help people like that, because they're usually extremely loving people. They have so many gifts to offer, but they lack that self-confidence. And some people might misread themselves as being lazy or introverted or, whatever the case may be. And I think that some of these prayers would really, really help, because it also gives people a focus on what it is that they want to let go of, or what they want to bring into their life, or how they'd like to expand themselves or their own spiritual being. So some of these prayers in here are pretty powerful stuff. Not that all of them aren't, but I haven't used all of them either. I don't need to use all of them. I think I'd go nuts if I did that. But it's really...
There's 73 of them, right?
Yeah. But they're so helpful, especially if you're at a place in your life and everybody... pardon me, has like these stops and starting points, right? We stop on something and we go, something in my life isn't working right. I think I need to, and then ... whatever that is, right? We fill in the blank. And there's always points in everyone's lives where they just kind of stop and take stock of where they're at and what's making sense, what isn't making sense, why is it not making sense, how is it making sense, what more can we do, for ourselves or for, everybody else or whatever the case may be. And this book here is very powerful in order to be able to direct people not only for themselves, but to help others as well as the entire world. It's fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. I literally channeled it. I kind of say, how am I supposed to do this? And they say, go to Sedona, go to your little workshop. There's a workshop that I love in Sedona with a guy named Tom Bird, and he does a writer's workshop, and you basically get locked in a room for 4 days and you write. And he does this great meditation. And, it's just, for me, it's a perfect way to just sit down and channel all this information. And I wrote most of the book in 4 days, which sounds crazy, but it's true. Then I went home and I edited it, and my good friend Meg helped me out some more on the editing part. And then I went back and I got, I need to go deeper. It needs to be, bigger, more, deeper, something. And so I went back and wrote for another 4 days and came back and rearranged and reorganized everything. But literally, they said it's a prayer book, and I started asking my students, what would you like prayers for? And people would say things like guilt or blame or,
Yep.
I want to get rid of more of these past life vows of poverty, or I want, disappointment or judgment, or, whatever it was, and then, so there's the kind of prayers to clear the lower vibrational emotions like, blame, guilt, jealousy, judgment, shame, things like that. And then they also started giving me these beautiful prayers to upgrade your DNA. There's a prayer for majestic body. There's a prayer for multidimensional clearing. There's a prayer to fill up with the highest cosmic energy. And there's, these great prayers to release illusion, and prayer of golden light. And, and then, like we said, there's a prayer for cancer. And there's, I've had a lot of death in my life, sadly. I've had a lot of my good friends die over the last, since I was, I think, 13, the first one passed. And so there's a prayer to release grief and loss. And there's even another prayer for suppressed grief. So they gave them to me, kind of both sides of the coin in a way, right? So we want to get rid of the lower vibrational, kind of negative emotions, and we also want to be able to align with our dharma, to be of service, to prayer of forgiveness, right? All of these things. There's a prayer to be a magnet for good. I love that one.
Yeah, it's great. That one's great.
All right, there's a prayer for the earth. I'm not exactly sure where it is. I think it's in the beginning. I must have probably skipped over it. But there's many, many people on the planet. There's a prayer for strength, for alignment, for world peace, right? Because a lot of us have come here to support the planet, and so there's prayers to help us do that. So it's very cool, and we'll do some of them, absolutely. But so it's always a fun process for me because I just sit down and I let it flow through. And somebody said to me, why 73 prayers? And I said, well, when the book was done, I counted them up, and that was what it was. There was no planning in there. That's what it was.
Well, then, so let's do this. I'm gonna just kind of take a little poll here of the people that are out there listening to us tonight to find out if they could listen to a few prayers, what would be the topics of their prayers that they would like to hear tonight. And let's see if we can get some people to respond to that and see what their answers will be. Please place them in all caps for everyone that's listening. Just kind of flow in there with a couple of the prayers that you would like to hear tonight, either for yourself or others. whatever the case may be. I know we have some audience members out there that aren't feeling well, and so maybe something like that. It doesn't matter what the topic is. Just go ahead and put those in all caps, and I will try to keep track of them as they come in. So let's go back to the book a little bit. You call yourself a seeker, a spiritual seeker. So you kind of given us a little glimpse into some of the things that you have done. You were on a prayer group for 10 years. And you said 20 years ago is when you kind of got this information on the Akashic records. So that tells me that you've been at this for a while. Have you always been, metaphysical?
I was actually born this way. So, it started about 57 years ago. So I'm 60 years old now. When I was 3, I had my first kind of epiphany and realization. And, of course, as a 3-year-old, you're trying to learn to communicate. You're trying to, talk to your parents and get people to do what you want them to do for you, whether they're feeding you or taking you somewhere, right? But you have to learn to use your words, which is not really so easy if you can remember back learning to speak. Anyway, I was obviously trying to tell my mother something, and I had this kind of epiphany. I looked at my hands, and I thought, I'm trapped in a body again. And I swear I looked at my mother, and I said, I want to go home. I want to go back. I want to go home. And my poor mom was like, but honey, you are home, right? I'm like, no, no, I'm not. And I could remember being, like an energy, etheric being. And the interesting image is that there were 3 of us. I'm standing there with 2 other souls, kind of etheric-looking souls in my memory. And we're communicating, but we don't have to use all these words. You just could energetically share information, the whole picture story, just they get it, right? Kind of telepathically, energetically. And so it was like I remembered, I thought, oh my God, here I am, trapped in a body. So yeah, for me, it's a total lifelong path. So I started studying when I was 14. I started reading everything I could get my hands on. I was reading, Journeys Out of the Body, my favorite book, right? Robert Monroe. How do I get out of my body? I'm 14, right? Carlos Castaneda, all the East, West, it was the 60s. It was the early 70s. And, so there was lots of information coming from the East. And so I really started my path as a seeker at 14 years old. And I went on to minor in philosophy in college. And, so it's a lifelong, the 20-year thing is the most recent. So I've been at it for, 50 plus years.
I hear you. And you just, let me tell you a little quick story, really funny. When I was 8 years old, I made a statement to my grandma, and I said, I want to go home. And she said, well, your mom's going to come pick you up. And I said, no, you don't understand. I want to go home. And even then I knew, I was like, I knew this wasn't where I was from, right? And every once in a while, even today, and I've been at this for 50 plus years, I look at my hands every once in a while, and it's almost like I don't connect with them. And I look at them and I go, now, whose hands were these again? It's like you lose, does that ever happen to you where you just kind of, okay. It's like you lose yourself for a few moments, right?
Right.
It's an interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a very similar experience as I did as that 3-year-old looking at my hands thinking, oh my God, I'm trapped in a body. These are their hands here. Oh no.
I hear
it's pretty crazy. I know most of us, I think, tend to kind of forget, and then sometimes we wake back up again. And I, from the time I was 3 till I was, 13, I think I was a relatively normal kid. I don't remember. I think I kind of fell back asleep again. And then again at 14, it was that kind of like wake up. It was like looking in the mirror and going like, there's, a body and eyes looking back at me. That's right. I'm trapped in a body. Yeah. So it's a pretty wild experience, but I know there's lots and lots of light workers out there. There's so many of us here on our dear planet Earth, our dear Gaia, who have come to raise the vibration, do the light work, bring the consciousness, up in the world. So, and we do it in so many ways, like you with the radio show. It's fabulous.
Yeah, and I teach classes and all of that as well, and there's so many people on this station as well as on Revolution Radio that do the same thing. They're on the radio, but they also have written books, or they do classes. I've done a little bit of both. And so, yeah, I mean, we're here. We're all here. As I say all the time, Lisa, we're on this boat together. All of us, we're all in the same space, right? We're all here
That's
together.
right.
So let's work together. Let's figure this out. So I want to say, first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that wrote, some of the things that they would like prayers on tonight. And, some of them are very, very interesting. So Lisa, I'm gonna give you a couple of different prayers, and maybe you could share because I know if you're channeling this, you must have got something besides just the prayers. I mean, as you're going through the prayers, there had to have been, it's that other pieces, the layers or levels, if you will, or the depth of the information is more than just the words. Obviously, there's the energy behind it, but there's also a bigger understanding of it as well. So maybe you could explain after you're done. But the first one that came out was a prayer for grief.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, boy, let me just say, that's I'm going to say it's really important, and thank you for asking for that. And I actually just had a very intense experience where this weekend, we just had, on Saturday, my husband was hiking with some people. They were getting ready. They were getting in shape to do a big 60-mile backpack trip. And one of the gentlemen, about 50 years old, they were carrying backpacks with about 35, 40 pounds. And he just, he sat down and he passed out. And my husband he got hold of me and said, call an ambulance. And we got the ambulance there, and they got him to the hospital, and he actually passed from heat exhaustion. Heat stroke. Heat stroke. He had 109 temperature when they got him to the hospital.
My goodness.
Died of heat stroke at 50 years old with his two 13-year-old twin boys there. And it's just, those kinds of things. They're just mind-boggling and so sad. And I always say, and this has been, for some reason, people have said to me, like, I've had about a half a dozen of literally my best friends die. And two of them died, like I said, before I was 20. And so I've always said, why? What the heck is that all about? But part of it really is about the awareness of the infinite, expansive nature of our souls. And so, yes, in the book, I talk a lot about these sorts of things, about grief, and the masters, of course, they're it's not just prayers. There's like a couple of pages of information that go, with a real chapter with information, and then the prayers, because the Akashic Masters want us to be able to kind of understand the bigger picture, the bigger expanse of who we are as souls, as infinite, ancient, wise souls, not just, little humans who have one, flash in the pan life. But, so I know when I was 13 and my best friend died of a brain tumor, I was so angry. I was probably more angry than sad. I was so mad that, that she could be taken so young, and how how wrong that was. I was quite righteous. I was 13, right? And,
yes, we all are like that.
but even at that age, because of my memories, I knew that she was infinite, and I knew in some way that it had to make sense even if I couldn't understand it. And so really this is what a lot of the information in this book is about, the fact that that our souls make these choices in so many different ways. And so having this, odd experience to see, this young 50-year-old guy with 13-year-old twins, they're getting in shape to do a backpacking trip, and now he's gone, and his poor wife and the family, and you think, what could make sense about that? Right? I mean, but we have to let our minds go. We have to move out of the story or out of the illusion and move into that place of trust and faith that there was something either his soul had done, there was a soul contract about, how he would show up in life. There are, lessons to learn. It's not all easy and right, but it's never, it's never right, wrong, or good or bad. It is just what it is. So when we work on the Akashic records, the beings of light, these librarians that are keeping our records, they've never been human. They have no judgment. There is no judgment in the unified field of source. It is really all good, even though it doesn't always look like it. And there can be dark, but it's still source. It's still us raising our vibrations and coming to understand and coming to see the illusion. And, I think that no matter how wise or, maybe if you're really awakened, I spend most of my days doing Akashic record readings and healings for clients, and I'm in this high vibration, and I get the expanse and the wisdom, but, when someone crosses, when someone dies and leaves their family behind, it always hurts. It's the human aspect. We miss our friends and family. We do grieve, and and rightfully so. This is part of the human experience. We're not here to be cold-hearted. We're here to have this experience that we cannot have anywhere else in any other dimension except for here on planet Earth. We don't get to make babies in the same way anywhere else, to hold our babies, to make love, to watch these sunsets, to, be love, to be forgiveness, anywhere in the galaxies. Nowhere is like this planet Earth, and that's why we come here. As challenging as it is, right? With the sadness, the loss, the grief.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So all that said, let me read the prayer, huh?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So this is the prayer to release grief and loss. Mother, Father, Goddess, God, please let me feel held in your loving embrace as I experience this grief today. I am open to the wisdom and the awareness that comes from this experience. Today I stand unguarded as I receive bursts of divine light to assist me. Please help me as I release the pain, the sadness, and the loss. I am filled with divine love and always connected to Creator Source. And so it is. Blessed be.
So it is. Beautiful. You could feel that. Thank you.
Yeah, you are so welcome. You are so welcome. Thank you. I needed that too. You can probably hear my voice cracking.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
You realize even though even though I didn't know the family, of course I see the pain that my husband's in. I've had so many friends cross over, and it is sad, and we do feel that loss, and so what the Akashic Master said is that here is some information about this, and just say the prayers and let the energy move through you. Feel the connection. Let yourself open to that wisdom and that experience.
Yes.
As you release the pain and the sadness and the loss. So.
Ooh, all right. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Lisa. Mm-hmm. We have a few more. We'll be taking a break, I think, though, in about 5 minutes, closer to the top of the hour. And I don't want to get started on anything that we'd get interrupted in, but let me give you the rest of the ones that I'd like for you. Maybe during break we could look at these, or you could. Saffron wanted one for peace. And I would assume it's world peace. It could also be self-peace. I'm not sure. A good one was, obviously, is one I talked about, was self-confidence. And one was to better help others. And the mission that we have in this lifetime. Those were some of the prayers, and there were more, I think, but those were some of them that I got. And also, how do you learn to let go of addiction? And this person said they didn't mean all chemical either. So addiction is addiction. You can have addictive relationships. You can have addiction to nicotine, to sugar, to bad relationships, to pharmaceuticals, to, illegal drugs. I mean, the addictions are food addictions, people that overeat. Or people that exercise 8-10 hours a day, they're addicted to that, rush, there's just a lot of forms of addiction. So that'd be something over the break that maybe you can think about. World peace. Okay. There's world peace. That one was one of my favorites, by the way. I like that one. Thank you. And that was from Saffron. And then we have some actual questions, as well that, I'd like to get to as well in the second hour. Because I think they're very, they're very on point to the conversation and the whole topic of the Akashic records and where you can go and other dimensions, the multidimensional places, et cetera, and so forth. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that's coming up, that we'll be talking about in the second hour. So I'm going to, here real quick, is give everyone the akashicknowing.com and I'm going to put that actually right in the chat box so that people can have that. And if they want to go there, they can look at your website and find your book. And also there's some media on your website, some audio, as well as a lot of written information. Gives people a little bit of a background into what the Akashic records are, because even though we have this wonderful conversation, it's hard to absorb everything that comes in. In the 2 hours, it's usually pretty fast and furious, boom, 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 and, just pushing stuff at you, and then you kind of go, gosh, that was great, but I can't even remember, half of what I heard. So I think it's really great if they can go in and kind of learn a little bit on their own, read a little bit, especially, during the break time and afterwards. And
there are 3 free gifts, too. Don't forget that.
Oh, no, I didn't know. You tell them all about that then.
You go over to my website and you can just, you'll see right there on the homepage, you'll see a picture of my book, which you can click on and it'll give you more information about the book. And you can download, 3 free gifts. And if you buy the book, then you put in whatever that book code was and you'll get a 4th free gift, when you purchase the book, that is a 2-hour healing, MP3 that you would download. So there's an ebook, which is the prayers of self-love, which is about 5 or 6 healing prayers in the ebook, and there's 2 guided meditations that are very valuable for being guided, guarded, and protected, and for really connecting to this beautiful Akashic column of light. And then, like I say, the 4th one, if you purchase the book, is a 2-hour healing call I did around abundance.
Beautiful. That sounds great. Absolutely. That sounds fabulous. Woo. I was just in there reading. I skipped over that part. I went to the second part. I'm terrible. I always read the back pages first and then go, okay, I got it. And then I have to go back and read the front. Seriously, my dyslexia, I earned it. I earned every bit of it because I still do that kind of stuff even today. You'd think I would know better. But it's like I'm the one that doesn't follow directions. I look at the thing, go, okay. And I get all done. I go, well, maybe I should go back and actually read what the directions said, right? Yeah. So that, and sometimes it works out though. Let me tell you, it really does. Anyway, that's really great to know about some free gifts as well. Now your first book, did it have a website or is that just available on Amazon?
Yeah, if you go, this is a little bit, if you go to my website and you look under products, there's a drop-down, list in that top header bar. It says products, and when you click on that, it'll drop down. I have home study classes. You'll see links to both of my books.
Okay. Well, there's our piece of music, guys. If you will stay with us, we'll be right back with more of Lisa Barnett and From Questioning to Knowing, the 73 Prayers to Transform Your Life, right here on Journeys with Rebecca. Stay with us. All right, everyone. Welcome back. And you are listening to Journeys with Rebecca. We're here with my fabulous guest, Lisa Barnett, and we are talking about the latest book, From Questioning to Knowing, 73 Prayers to Transform Your Life. Welcome back, Lisa.
Thank you.
It's been fun. It really has. So we left off, and I had some people that wrote in some of the prayers that they would like to hear about tonight. We also have some other questions that we can get to. That also kind of melds in with what we're conversing about tonight. So, I kind of given you a list of, some of the ones. So how about some world peace? How about, a beautiful, beautiful prayer for world peace?
Absolutely. I would love to. So I always just suggest to people, if you can, sit back and close your eyes and just drop down into your heart. It's really the easiest way to connect to the Akashic Records, to our higher selves, to Source, to all that is good, right? So just taking a nice deep breath. Oh, we ask our Mother, Father, Goddess, God, I am peace, and this peace permeates my heart. As I feel it in the depths of my soul, I expand this peace to embrace the world. I am peace. I know this is true for me. I know this is true for humanity. And so it is. Blessed be.
And so it is. Blessed be. Thank you. That was beautiful. Beautiful.
They're just so simple, and they're short. You can do a couple prayers in a day without a problem. It doesn't.
Absolutely.
It's not like trying to meditate for an hour.
Yeah. I don't know about too many people that really have an hour to sit and meditate. I know I do not have an hour to sit and meditate. I try to meditate a little bit every day. I usually do, but it's usually only for a few minutes at a time. But it's more about the quality of the meditation and not the quantity of time that you spend. So just in those brief moments of this beautiful little prayer that took up, maybe a minute, if that.
If that, right?
Yeah, if that, yeah. So it's like when you start breaking it down and you say, gosh, I only need like 2 or 3 minutes to do this. And what a huge difference it can make, because I'm telling you, the vibrations, they go out. They literally go out. That vibration is everywhere. That resonance field, everything. It begins to hum and sing. You can almost feel it, It's beautiful.
Yes, yeah. And so I'm being called to do the prayer for alignment, and they're bringing this up because it's such a nice and easy way, again, to just kind of, get in alignment with our day. And some people I know say that they love to read these, 2 or 3 times to just kind of go deeper into the energy, or once, is all just perfect. But literally to just take those 3 minutes and breathe into your heart and, kind of get yourself centered and in your body. So here's the prayer for alignment. Mother, Father, Goddess, God, please show me what it feels like to be the highest, brightest, most expansive and aligned self that I can be today. Please open my heart to know the truth of my divinity and allow me to receive all the good that is within and without. Please guide me on my next steps to being abundant in all ways with ease and grace. And so it is.
And so it is. With ease and grace.
Yes, ease and grace. Always a good thing to add in there. And then I think we talked, I'm not sure, the self-trust came up somewhere. I'm not really sure if you mentioned it, but I know that it's one of the things.
Self-confidence, but self-trust is also, is really what it really is. So yeah.
Right. So it is about being able to trust ourselves, trust the wise ones that we are, to be able to really, drop into that wisdom and truth. And it gives us the strength to move forward. So there's a couple of these prayers that have to do with self-trust and self-love and really, healing self-esteem. So they're all that ebook I was mentioning. I think it's called something self-love. That one of the free gifts on my website is you'll get all 5 of those prayers really around this self-trust, self-love, really healing ourselves, because the world has not been too nice to humanity for a long, long time. And most of us have some level of, self-esteem issues, right? So here's the prayer of self-trust. Mother, Father, Goddess, God, I awaken to the memory of the ancient soul I am. With this memory, I know I can trust myself and my inner guidance. I am a divine soul having a human experience, and it is good. And so it is.
And so it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a couple of the ones I think I caught. I have self-love and self-valuing. Should we go on and just kind of go on a little self-roll?
Let's go on a little self-roll. I think everyone could use this. I mean, I know I can, because I can feel it, and it puts me into a kind of a higher, more mellower state of being. It feels comfortable. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is the prayer of self-love. Mother, Father, Goddess, God, as I now choose to move from my head deeply into my heart, I connect to my love of self. This sacred room holds the memory of the divine in me. There is nothing else. I sit calmly in my heart center and feel the pervasive energy of the Creator. I am that I am.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I've got to just that's the same one. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and self-valuing. So here's the third one, kind of in this group of loving ourselves. Mother, Father, Goddess, God, please support me as I step into my knowing of the truth of myself as a divine soul. Please connect me to this expansive memory and align me with the knowing of how I came to be of service. I treasure myself as an ancient and infinite soul. I cherish the gifts I have to offer humanity. I share them with humility and grace. And so it is. Blessed be.
And so it is. Yeah. Kind of puts you in that floaty, cloudy thing, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Just beautiful space. Yeah. There's two things that, two more, and then we can kind of move into some other areas. One of them was to better help others, and the other one is what was the mission that we have in this lifetime. So that would be an individual thing. What's my mission? What's my soul's purpose? I guess that would be, if there's one like that, such as that. I can't remember all of them in here either.
Right. And I'm looking through my list of,
yeah, let me
73
see.
prayers. I'm like, let's see, what matches that pretty well? Boy, there's the one for Dharma. Let me do the prayer to align with Dharma. That's really kind of our mission.
Okay.
Right? Dharma is, and the book actually, there is a whole chapter about, let me just pop over to that chapter and see. Let's see. So, like I said, there's quite a bit about, to help us understand what are soul contracts. Why would we pick these families that we have? If there are challenging emotions that we have with our families very often, and they connect often to our ancestral lineage and all these other things. So there's lots of information in here, along with, how many of us have come to be of service, to step into being the divine, abundant beings that we truly are in all ways, which can help by releasing past life vows, aligning with our Dharma, prayer to be of service. So there's a whole little series of those. Maybe we'll just do that little series. How about that? That's, a nice little piece kind of around abundance also. And, who doesn't want a little more abundance, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this is the prayer to release past life vows, because what I've seen in the Akashic Records is that so many of us who are on a spiritual path now have been on other spiritual paths for probably hundreds of lifetimes, which means that we've been monks, we've been priests, we've been nuns, we've been, part of the temples and the high priests and priestesses. And many of these times we've taken vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience.
Oh, very good.
Right?
Yeah.
So, this is the prayer to release past life vows. So if you have any of those vows, poverty, chastity, obedience, that you'd like to get rid of, this is the prayer for you. So Mother, Father, Goddess, God, I align to the present in this very moment. I have experienced blocked energy in my life and my body. I now know that this is not who I am. I go into the past, into lifetimes holding vows of poverty, chastity, or obedience. I release those vows to the divine energy of Source. I am grateful for all the gifts those lifetimes have given me. I now claim all my highest good, wisdom, and truth that I can hold. I walk forward cleared of past life energy, fears, and blocks as I embrace my abundant life. I am abundance.
Very cool.
So
Very
that,
cool.
yeah, that helps us to kind of just shake loose some of those old vows that we made.
Yes. There's so many things. I mean, once we start like really looking at all the different aspects of our beingness, right? All the things that we could have been, done, said, seen, or whatever, right? Oh my goodness. You know, and I actually I actually have past life classes that I give in small groups to help people release different things, to help them walk through these past lives, right? And how to expand and let go of things. Yeah. But what you're saying in this is like, you know, there's like, I never thought about, I haven't run across anybody that's come into one of my classes as well. You know, I was a nun and this is what I experienced. But I personally myself I've had my own, kind of flashbacks, if you will. I know I was in a monastery, many, many years ago, you know, many lifetimes ago, I should say, not only as a monk, but I also was in a monastery because I was an orphan, and I was the girl that sang. I was the happiest little thing, and I was in this very cold, dank castle, or monastery, and I would have to be the cleaner. I cleaned up, I mopped everything, and I would just sing and hum, and I was just really, really happy. But I didn't talk to anybody. I sang, but that was it. It was a very strange little vision. But, you know, I never thought about, like, all those times when I, you know, as a priestess or a priest or whatever I was, that, you know, yeah, sure, we took those vows. Absolutely we did. Hello?
Right, and many of them stick because we don't break those, you know, and so, as terrible as this kind of sounds, my husband, used to say, I'll love you forever, you know, back when we were newlyweds 25 years ago. I'd say, don't say that.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
Love me now. Love me till death do us part. I don't want to love you forever.
Yeah. So
forever is a very, very long time.
Yeah, let me share my story of forever. Coming out of the attorney's office with my now ex-husband, right? And I don't know what prompted me. This has been many years ago. But I stopped, I turned around and looked at him and I said, you know, I told you I would love you forever, and I think that's just too long of a time. I don't think I want to do that anymore. And when I did that, honest to goodness, when I did that, I saw these angelic beings tooting their horn, and they took these big scissors and cut these ribbons. And I mean, I could just feel it like disconnect. I was like, I think I just completed a cycle. I was so happy.
Wow. Yes. I mean, literally. Yeah. We clear these vows. I often will see the Akashic record keepers burning these old scrolls. They you signed a contract that was a vow of poverty. I will not take money for my spiritual gifts, right? And often when I clear them, I literally see these scrolls go up in flames.
Isn't
and you got, you know, I like the cutting of the ribbons and on trumpets.
Yeah,
it was lovely.
It was an interesting little experience. Let me tell you, I was like, yeah, it took me a while for that to absorb. I was like, did that really just happen? That was so cool. Was that really? I was just like amazed. Yeah. I was like, that's just awesome, right?
That is so profound, really, to have that experience. That is so profound to be like, wow, I can see what that vow was doing. And you might not have married him in this life if you didn't have that vow. You may have. You might have written a new you might have written a new soul contract with him for this life to learn or to complete or to do something. But sometimes these vows get us stuck in a way that are just so outside of time and space that we kind of don't have any control over them, like these vows of poverty.
Yeah, let me share this. You bring up such a valid point. In the same marriage, right? He asked me to marry him for like 62 times, and every time I said no, I don't want to marry you. So like there was something in that, and now I like just put those two pieces together. There had to have been something in that. I knew I wasn't supposed to do that somewhere I had to break some kind of a cycle, even though I wasn't consciously aware of it. And I broke down and married him. And then, we didn't stay married for too long. We were with each other, but we didn't stay married for too long. And then we got a divorce. It was just, so, I knew that there was something there that I wasn't supposed to be doing, because I don't like have this hatred against marriage at all, But it's like, no, I don't want to get married to you. Why? I don't know. I just don't want to. It's not needed. It's not necessary.
Right, it's some old vow. It's not present time vow, right? So, but the good news is you ended it. You completed it. You said, I'm ending my vow. It's not that hard to break the vow. You just have to get conscious, which is why they've given us these sorts of prayers to say, I'm conscious that I have a vow of poverty or something, and I release it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of us that run around with that. And I truly do believe that. I truly believe there's a lot of us that have that. Or, all the rest of them, the very judgmental ones and the ones that keep us very constrained internally. It's like an internal, organism that grows and it kind of festers in there, and I don't like this. Why am I like this, Which, these prayers can help release a lot of that. I think this is fabulous. So let's go on to
we were going to do Dharma. Align with Dharma.
That's it. That's right. You were. Thank you for letting me know.
And then we'll go on.
Okay, go for it.
Mother, Father, Goddess, God, I am centered in my body as I align my mind, spirit, and body with my soul purpose and my Dharma. I embrace the unique soul that I am as I embody my soul gifts. I incorporate a consistent spiritual practice in my life. I am of service to my family and community in ways that align with my light. I am grateful for the ease in which love and grace flow through my life, and so it is.
And so it is. Beautiful.
So, that's a nice one to just align. Again, there's a prayer for alignment, but when we go, I'm going to align with my Dharma, which is my soul purpose and how I came to share my gifts and talents or be of service. A lot of people don't like the be of service words because they feel like, I don't want to be somebody's slave, but how we align to our gifts and talents and sharing those with our friends, our family, our community, the world, whatever it is we've come to do. And so, it's always fun for me to talk about the book because just even flipping through it, that's in chapter 6, there's a whole chapter about abundance and the divine. And that's one of the prayers in there. And we talk about, what is it that blocks us from aligning to the divine and to being abundant souls, and our money karma, right? And, our collective unconscious beliefs that affect much of our financial abundance. And then really being the magnet for good, calling the good in all things, whether it's lovely, loving relationships. There's prayers for that prayer to be the magnet for good, and there's also a prayer for state of grace and for really opening your heart, the prayer for financial abundance. Because, of course, as I work with clients every day, I see these are so often the issues that come up, and that's why these are what, we wrote the book based on, is clearing our blocks to abundance of all kinds, love, money, health. All of these things are really ours, the abundance, the goodness, the magnet of good. They're ours to have. That's why we come here, to embody. And when when we're challenged or have issues or struggling or, health issues or money issues or relationship issues, whatever it might be, there's something that's out of alignment, some piece we're missing, whether it's karma, a vow of poverty, unconscious beliefs. And to me, the great, great gift of working in the Akashic Records is that what I see with my clients is most of us have multiple layers of energies and issues that are creating these blocks. So if someone says, I have say some kind of, I think I must have some block to, making enough money. I can make it, but I can't hang on to it. I've made money and gone bankrupt 3 times, or I can just never, everybody's got a different story. I can never just get a good enough job that pays me very well, or every time I have a little money in the bank, my car breaks, or, my dog is sick, right? Have you heard
and
that one?
that's what happens to me. I always looked at it as, well, at least it happened when I had money. I never thought of it the other way.
Well, right, but what is it that makes you not, somehow there's a part of you that is not allowing you to stay abundant, to have and to hold and to be abundant, to allow that energy, money, that money is energy, to flow naturally to and through your life, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I have some money in the bank, that's a bad thing. I have to get rid of it.
Yeah, there you go.
And there the car breaks or the dog gets sick or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go.
So
I
it's
think
layers
you're onto
and
something.
layers.
Yeah, I like that.
Right. So in the records, and like I say, there's a kind of a chapter about it in the book, but this is why I work one-on-one with clients to say, in your records, it's some of it's ancestral. People have, family ancestral curses sometimes. I'll have clients come to me and they'll say, I know this sounds weird, but I think I'm cursed. And, there's these old curses, and it can be an energy of anger. It could be a vow, but we have that on top of, family beliefs and childhood patterns and things that people said to us when we were kids and all sorts of different kind of crazy past life vows. That life where you were really rich and mean and you died all alone and you said, I never want to be rich again. I'm a terrible person when I'm rich.
There you go.
And so now you made a vow, another vow, different kind of vow, but a vow not to have money again.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting, that, and you have to be so careful with how you say things because it can be, the universe listens to everything that comes out of us, whether it comes out audibly or whether we're thinking about it and we're projecting it. I know, I have to tell you this real quick story. I was sitting in the car and having a conversation with somebody, and I said, wow, they were getting free chiropractic care because they had a minor accident. And I said, wow, I wish I could have free chiropractic care. And, and as soon as I said that, I have all these little things that happen to me, and I heard this little bell. It's a bell that goes off. And it's a nice bell. It's not a bad sounding bell. But I was like, I shouldn't have said that. I already said it, right? And sure enough, not too long after that, I had my first car accident, and guess what I got? Was free chiropractic care. Okay. So you just
you are a very good manifester. Most of us don't manifest that well or that quickly. You must be a super, super duper manifester. So now you know, right? So we'll just, manifest other things, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you really do have to be careful. And as far as curses go, people think because it's an old word, it's misunderstood, but you can curse somebody just by saying, I hope you never get another job like that or whatever. You could be saying something like that. That's actually cursing somebody. Even though you're not running around in a circle, you're not dressed in witch's wear or any of that stuff. You don't have to be that in order to curse somebody.
Right.
And
No, that's great that you say that, because I agree. I always think, I always feel a little bit weird saying, well, you have this curse, but, it's not like a voodoo curse from, 300 years ago, or it's not. And sometimes they're old family curses, and I'll see them exactly like that. Like, two brothers have to share a piece of property, and one of them curses the other one because they don't want to split the property or whatever it is. And, like, I hope you fall in the river and drowned, kind of, huh? Well, let's just say,
Right. Right.
And, it's important to know that not everything we think or say or do, we don't want to be afraid. Most of us are not that clear and that aligned that we can do that really easily, quickly. But if you have enough energy behind it, if you have real anger and hatred and jealousy, very, intense emotions like that, you really can curse somebody and it'll stick.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. I've seen it firsthand. I have, and it's sad. It's sad. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yes, let's move off of that. That's a topic that's woo, yeah, but it helps people. It does help people. Let's do this last one. This was how to learn to let go of an addiction. And then we have a couple of questions that came in too as well, so we'd like to get answered.
Right. So, one of the things that, I'm drawing a little blank. I don't know if I have a prayer around addiction. Did you notice one there?
I thought I saw something that might work. Let me see here. And we're both looking through her book. And right? I'm so grateful to have one, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
I work with addiction in many different ways, because for most of us, addiction is a very intense pattern. And it gets very tied into low self-esteem, to lack of self-worth, and to very often these patterns get created and built upon from our childhood, and we may even bring some of that energy in, and then it gets built on by our families, and so it's a little bit of a complicated one.
Yeah, I would agree. One of them is prayer for worthiness of unique self. That might have something that would be helpful. The alignment one, I think the one we did for alignment is really good for them.
Right.
Because it does help to clear.
And there's a bunch of them that are really kind of about moving forward and that sort of thing. So, let's do a couple of them. Let me see. Let's do worthiness of self, and then I want to do forward motion.
That's a good one. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. All right. So, this is the prayer for worthiness of unique self. Mother, Father, Goddess, God, I claim my uniqueness and I liberate the collective consciousness that has held me in constraint. I am free of all holds that seized my self-worth. I step away from the desire for public approval. I release the group contracts and agreements that no longer serve my highest good, and move beyond the limitations of authority. I am worthy to express as my God self, and do so now and each day forward. I claim this truth for myself and all I meet, and so it is. Thus it be.
And so it is. Wow, that's a great
so
one.
that actually is a good one, because it does have the, self-worth and, and then all that, so often these kind of patterns get stuck through this looking for approval and, group contracts and, trying to be that good girl or good boy. And the other one, now that I'm saying this, the other one that's really, big is that so many of the star seeds on the planet just don't feel like they fit in. And so, right, we self-medicate however that may show up, whether it's, alcohol, drugs, food, sex, you shopping, whatever. It's all, computer games. They can be an addiction too, right? So It's because we feel that we don't fit in. So that, that worthiness of unique self definitely fits that bill. So here's the prayer to assist in forward motion. Mother, Father, Goddess, God, please release the ties that bind me. Help me to expand outside of time and space, to clear and release any energy that is trapped in the past from the beginning of time until this present moment. Please help me to gather my highest energy in this moment that I may have the impetus to move forward on my soul path, fulfilling my soul purpose. And so it is. Blessed be.
And so it is. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I think I always feel like I could just do that one every day.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't hurt to do that, right?
Right.
To if you find one that really uplifts you and keeps you going and does all that wonderful things for you, then I think it's worth it to individuals to do that, is to find a prayer that really seems to be suited and fit for them. And, it's like, oh, this is just like as good as my morning coffee almost, maybe better.
I could read this along with my morning coffee.
That would even be the best idea right there. Well, let's do this. Go ahead, yes. Lisa.
Well, I was gonna tell you a story, a little story about one of my clients who read the same prayer for 6 months straight. So this gentleman came to me because he was in business with his brother. They were realtors. And his brother had been mad at him for like 15 years. And he says, it's gotten unbearable. I share an office with my brother, this guy, and he doesn't speak to me. And so we opened his records and we did a lot of soul work and we did some family lineage clearing and I don't know all what different things, but I know that the Akashic Master said, do the prayer of forgiveness. And one of the things the Akashic Masters tell us is that forgiveness clears and heals karma. Because when we can forgive somebody for doing us wrong, when we can forgive ourselves for hurting or harming or doing, wrong to someone else, whether we said some unkind thing in passing or we actually, maybe you could do the forgiveness prayer if you had a car accident and the other person was physically hurt and you forgive yourself for hurting them. Even though it was an accident, we hold on to so many of these energies. And then there's also a part of the forgiveness prayer which helps us to forgive ourselves for any harm we have caused ourselves. Because, aren't we mostly known for beating ourselves up, looking in the mirror and thinking, or, you're yes. not smart enough, bright enough, fast enough, pretty enough, rich enough. We're always telling ourselves we're not enough, Right. So no wonder we have self-esteem issues. If it's not coming from the outside, it's coming from the inside. So anyway, so this client read the forgiveness prayer every single day. He read it 3 times in the morning, and he read it for 6 months. And his brother had no idea. He didn't have any idea that this was going on. And he said one day that his brother came into the office and said, well, I guess sometimes you just have to forgive. And that was that. The brother forgave him. Yep. And he said it was a miracle. Yeah, it was a miracle. He said, it's a miracle. I can hardly get used to it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That is a beautiful story. How cool. Well, I think we all have somebody in our life like that we would like to heal and forgive or to be forgiven, whatever it is, right? Or maybe it's both. And that we would like to have better relationships, right, going on. And so I think it's important. And sometimes we don't even know what we've done. And sometimes that stuff isn't even of this life cycle. Sometimes it's of a previous life. And the other person just know, we don't exactly know when all this stuff actually started. That's why, it's important to really get to the point and get it done for sure. That's just beautiful. Beautiful. Well, Lisa, that's just fabulous. Fabulous story.
Yeah. So it might, one person will read a prayer once, and I had another, it's kind of fun because there are some of these little stories in the book where people who used the prayers wrote to me and shared their experiences. And one lady said that, I have it in front of me, so I don't remember the exact prayer, but she said it only once, and it made a huge shift in the way her family was dealing with her. She said her mother, who, hadn't been very nice to her for quite a few years, tried to make up by complimenting her dishes or something like that, right? Being nice, making a compliment, I like your new dishes kind of thing. And her ex-husband called and gave her some information about some medical tests their daughter needed, and they'd been having this just really challenging divorce, and he wasn't giving her information, and it was really hot. And he called her up. I mean, she said, I did the prayer, and that day he called me up with this information I'd been asking for, and he hadn't been giving me, and my mother was complimenting me, and she said, again, it was a miracle. So it could be one time, it could be 6 months, It just all kind of depends.
Yes, just keep working at it, because eventually it gets saturated and it gets where it needs to be. Sometimes it takes a very circuitous way to get from point A to point B, whatever point B is. So you don't know what road those energies travel, right?
Right.
It can be just about anywhere and go just about anywhere before it gets to where it needs to be.
Right, because we don't really, mostly we're not very conscious. That's why I say when I work in the records, the Akashic Masters will say, well, there's 5 layers of, things to clear that block for, say, this person, because you might have this vow of poverty and you have an ancestral, family lineage block, and you have patterns of things your parents said to you when you were a child, and you have some old, curse, and so we don't know how much it has to go through very often when we're doing this kind of work with a book like this. So for one person, it may be 1 layer, and someone else it's 3, and someone else it's 5, right? So ours is not to judge. It's just to kind of keep doing our work, right?
That's right. Exactly. And we have to know that the work we do comes from our intention, our focus, and that's as best as anyone can do.
Right.
And it usually works. It's just fabulous.
Yes. That's the exciting part.
Yeah. It usually works. Usually. Okay. So I have a question here for you. Mm-hmm. And this comes from, these are questions that came after we asked for the prayers for people, right, tonight? And, this is just people that are, getting into the idea that you have abilities to get into the Akashic records. So this person is asking whether or not there will be a choice and whether they come back to this planet, or do you have to hold on to where your deeds have taken you when we breathe our last breath? You understand the question?
I'm not 100% sure, but...
You want me to read it again?
Yeah, say it one more time.
Okay. Will I have the choice on whether I come back to this planet, to this plane,
Mm-hmm.
Or do
Mm-hmm.
you hold that you go where your deeds have taken you when you breathe our last breath? And he called it a mortal coil.
Right. This is the way the Akashic Masters explain it, is that when we come to Earth and we start into this learning and growth cycle, what does very often happen is that before we figure things out, we usually muck about and make a bit of a mess of things. And so I would say
true.
that is the mortal coil part, is that we create this karma that we need to understand and learn and release and grow from. So karma is, the way the Akashic Masters explain it, it's not, right or wrong or good or bad. It's not a punishment. So even though I may have stolen money in a past life, maybe I was a pirate. Let's go with pirate. Pirate sounds fun. Even though I was a pirate in a past life, I probably was. I'm not going to be punished by, coming back and having everybody steal everything from me. Although I may have that experience. Maybe I'll have a business and my business partner runs off with the money. And what it's about is the learning. It's about going, oh, that's what it feels like when someone takes everything you have. And how can I clear this karma? And the simple answer to that is to forgive that person. To say, I know that there's something about this soul. I know this soul is a divine soul, and maybe they're just trying to help me learn a lesson, or maybe they're doing their own karmic, story over there, or, we've run them together. But when we come to the place where we can say, I see how that person was confused and he thought that money was really his, or he was really jealous and he just couldn't stand the fact that I was making more money, and when we start to understand the bigger picture and remember and know the truth that we are all divine souls under these little, flesh meat suits, and that we're all having this experience, as, challenging as it is for many of us, when we can come to that place, it becomes easier to see, understand, and forgive and move on. And that helps us. That really releases that old karma. So that's the fastest way to uncoil those earthly binds, and to move on. But literally, people usually live hundreds and hundreds of lives here on Earth because we do both sides of every coin. So if we're going to learn a lesson, we're going to steal from someone, we're going to be stolen from, right? So
right.
Both sides. And so we have to live out, all of this and then figure it out and not make it worse. Most of us make it worse before we make it better and before we get it, right?
So true, unfortunately.
and here's the cool thing is you also may have been enlightened and of service. And I was just working with a client today, actually, who was and this is not uncommon, had been a high priest and a slave in ancient Egypt, both, and had been part of some of the divine, temples of ancient Persia, and had been a slaver. And so this is, how complicated we are. So it's about reclaiming the wisdom and the healing abilities and awareness and enlightenment that we have had in some lives, and to heal the karma, the drama, the trauma that we've experienced and often have created in other lives. So they're really intertwined. We don't just go from bad to good. It's an up and down roller coaster from lifetime to lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well put. So we have a few more minutes left, and I have one other question here for you. And they're talking about about the other planets like Earth. In the Akashic records, have you run across other planets that are like Earth?
Oh, not like Earth. You know, so when I work in the records, and actually part of what I teach in my workshops is that I would say most of us have other lifetimes from, say, the dog star Sirius, which is where the Egyptian gods came from. And of course, there's many of us here from the planet Arcturus, and they're helping humanity go from war to peace to enlightenment. So as souls, we've lived in many of these other planes and planets and dimensions, but none of them are like Earth. And so we do have missions, and we often have some kind of bodies, but just what I hear and as best as I can see and, experience and remember, they're just not the same. They're just not like being human and swimming in the ocean and having a baby and watching the sunset and, all that juicy stuff, eating a yummy meal.
Yeah. And, and that's exactly what I've been shown as well. It's like this is a very unique planet. And so food, the idea of all the senses that it awakens within you, the aromas, the textures, the smells, the taste, all of it, whether it's hot or it's cold, whether it's raw or cooked, all these different things. Food is an experience. Yes, it nurtures our body and it fuels our physical form, but it's also about the experience of eating as well. I mean, something that simple. Going out and walking in a field and just smelling what the smells are and hearing the wind as it blows through the trees or the leaves or the tall grasses, whatever it is, feeling the ground upon your feet. Nowhere else is there experience like it is here on Earth, ever.
Right.
And we're here to be in touch with our emotions as well as all of these wonderful sensations. I mean, because it's crazy good. It's just wonderful.
Absolutely. And it really is. It's kind of funny because it's hard to, imagine or wrap our human brains around that fact. But, that's what so many of us, light workers get as we do this different sorts of, deep and expansive work, is that there is no place like Earth. And that's why we come again and again and again. And the learning and the growth, the soul growth is apparently also phenomenal like nowhere else. So.
Exactly. Exactly. It's fabulous. Listen, the audience tonight has just, been so, overwhelmingly into this information that you have been sharing. You can't see what I see. I'm in the chat room and I can see what they're saying and watching the conversations, and people really are here to listen to your information and how to heal things, and they learn. Every show hopefully is a learning experience on some level. And so they've asked me if maybe later on this year if we could bring you back. And I would love to invite you back, and I don't want you to give me an answer. You can certainly think about it and see what the masters tell you, but I would certainly love
to come back. It's been just a joy to share this information, and, it's always fun to have a deep conversation and to laugh and to share this love and the light with you, Rebecca, and with your listeners. So thank you so much, for loving the work and inviting me back. I would love to, absolutely.
Well, I think that we've talked a lot, but I think we're still just really at the tip of the iceberg. I mean, each prayer has, like you were saying, has so many levels and depth and dimensions to it that I think we could get into some of these prayers and get into some of the more heady, I guess, or deep, what's the word they want me to use? They're calling them pronouncements of information. Thank you. Anyway, yeah, they're kind of fun. My guides are fun too. And, so I think that this would be just a really, a good show to put something together. So what I'd like to do is I'll get in contact and we'll we'll get something cooked up between the two of us and we'll figure it out. And,
absolutely.
it'd be wonderful. So that being said, let's go all over your information. I have been, posting your, website, the Akashic, records, or Akashic Knowing. Yeah, AkashicKnowing.com. You think I would know that? I've like posted it in there like 72 times. Always
right, and 3 free gifts. Don't forget, there's 3 free gifts right there on the home page. When you click on AkashicKnowing.com, you'll see the book, and then if you scroll down just below the book, you'll see that little place to, put your name and email, and you'll get a letter with an email with the links to the three free gifts. And if you want to buy the book, there's a 4th free gift, which is actually a 2-hour healing session that I've recorded for everybody. And of course, there's information about the live classes I'm doing in Denver in August, in San Francisco in October, and then I teach online all the time. So if people are interested in learning to go deeper, that's the way to get the information, by signing up for the free gifts, and then you'll get my emails and my newsletters, and you'll see where I am. I'm doing a cruise. I'm doing an Ancient Mysteries Revealed cruise in November. People can come and hang out on a cruise down to Mexico. Ancient Mysteries Cruise. So, you'll find all of that on my website. Classes, one-on-one sessions. I do 30-minute and 55-minute healing sessions, Akashic healing sessions for clients. So definitely check out the website. It's all there.
Absolutely. And Lisa, thank you so much. We want to thank JP, Tobias as well for being here with us. All you beautiful, wonderful people out there. Until we meet again, where will your life's journey lead you? Many blessings, everyone, and good night. Good night, Lisa.
Thanks. Good night.